Welcome to Al Bernstein Unplugged on Boxing. In a 40-year Hall of Fame career, Al has chronicled some of the greatest moments in boxing history. On this podcast, you get to hear him expand on those memories and talk about the current news in the sport of boxing. You also hear Al interview some of the biggest names in the sport. Here's Al Bernstein Unplugged.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the show. We are going to visit with a gentleman who not only was a champion boxer and still may be, but he is also a color analyst on the show that I work on, Showtime Championship Boxing. We're going to visit with Abner Mares, so that should be a lot of fun. We also, of course, are going to take your questions that you send to me at Al Bernstein on Twitter. And for that and other things, we bring in my co-host, Mr. Trip Mitchell. Hi, Trip. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Al, and great to see Abner because he is really a character, and I think he's made a great transition from being a boxer to an announcer and possibly back to being a boxer again.
Yeah, he really has. I think he's starting to feel comfortable in the role, and he's a lovely, lovely guy. So he's a joy to work with, and you know, has given us so many great boxing memories, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's tough on him because you guys don't have the proximity. Normally when a fighter is coming up and starting to do broadcasting, he'd be right next to you, and this makes it much more difficult.
Yeah. I think we've talked about the fact that some broadcasters have even been remote, done in the fights remote where they're each in their own home. I don't think anybody's doing that now, but the fact is, it makes it more difficult. You do need the proximity to kind of just get that human interaction the right way. But we commented on our last broadcast to each other afterwards that we thought, you know, we're starting to figure that out, and it's tricky though.
Yeah. Well, we've got some great questions as usual this week. And this is one of those, the first question from one Slavin. If Mike Tyson convincingly beats Roy Jones, do you think he has a legit chance of becoming a champion again? And that would make him the youngest and the oldest champ.
Yeah, he has exactly the same chance to become heavyweight champion now as I have to be the next sitting pope. And, you know, I'm estimating there, but I think that's pretty much it. No, Mike Tyson does not have a chance to be heavyweight champion, even if he beat Roy Jones. I assure you that will not happen. He's not ready. The best way to look at this is when Mike Tyson ended his career, when he was still a fighter, he lost twice to Danny Williams and McBride. Both were not even top heavyweights. And I broadcast both those fights. He lost them both. He got knocked out in both those fights. So why on earth do we think there is any chance that he could beat a Deontay Wilder or a Tyson Fury? That just isn't going to happen. So no, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings and the Grinch that stole Christmas, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, you call him the way you see him.
And what can I say? And I could be wrong.
So,
I was wrong in 1997. So my nose is growing just from saying that. Anyway.
It's funny how this exhibition has taken on a life of its own. And every time Tyson sends out a video from training, you think back to when he was the baddest man on the planet.
And, and he looks all impressive for about a minute, hitting the pads and, showing he's in great shape. He looks like he's in excellent condition now. So that part, for a man at his age. So
Father Time has never lost.
No.
Okay. Giander LaBeouf writes, which division would you consider the glamour division now? And is it still in the hands of the welterweights? The lighter guys seem to be really tearing it up.
Yeah. Giander, by the way, is a very, very fine journalist and TV personality and internet personality, and not just in boxing. She covers boxing, but she has done great work in covering entertainment and other fields as well. So I appreciate her sending that in. It's a good question too, because the welterweights have long been considered the one division that we look at, and that division is still extremely strong and deep. But I think there are other divisions, like the 154-pound division, which is terrific. It has so many good fighters. And then another weight division that I'm going to kind of maybe suggest might even be there. It's the 122-pound division, the super bantamweight division. There are a number of fighters who are terrific and look like they are on track to fight each other. So that is part of my reasoning why I suggest that division might be there. That division has MJ Akhmadaliev, who is a terrific fighter who won a split decision win, a very narrow win over Daniel Roman to win the title. And then there's Daniel Roman, who barely lost to him and wants a rematch. Daniel just recently won an important fight, and he is now on track to maybe fight another champion, Luis Neri, who is also exciting, a left-hander with all kinds of power, who is just really a terrific fighter. And then you look at Brandon Figueroa, who has one of the versions of the titles at that weight, and a young man who is a wildly exciting action fighter, but also a vulnerable one who sometimes gets hit with punches that he shouldn't get hit with. And then there's a fighter that wants to maybe move up to that weight class, John Riel Casimero. And he just scored a big knockout victory. He's in the weight class below it at bantamweight. And I think it will be a very short period of time before he moves up, because those big fights in that division are waiting for him. So I kind of think 122 is where I would look for that. Now, speaking of great fighters in the lower weight divisions, that describes our guest this week. He won multiple championships and fought at one point, and we get into that in the interview with him, fought at one point one of the toughest schedules I think any fighter in my career has fought. The only other fighter I would put in the same category over a short period of time to fight that level of competition that I remember was Carl Froch, who fought Murderers Row for a while in the 168-pound division. So we had a wide-ranging and fun conversation with Abner Mares. Let's hear it now. Abner, thanks so much for joining me on the show. I want to give folks a chance, if they don't know, to know your story, which is really fascinating when you were a young man, because your family moved to the United States when you were 7 years old to California. But then you went back to Mexico when you were 15. Tell us a little bit about how that took place, what the purpose was of you going back to Mexico, and how that all worked out.
Yes, well, it was, I came at the age of 7 to the United States, looking for a better life. Obviously, my parents were. At the time, we were seven siblings. And major reasons I left the States back to Mexico was because I was getting into trouble. I lived in the city where, all you saw was gang violence and nothing good, And so I got caught up in that mix. I started hanging out with the people I shouldn't have. And I got word to my dad that I was about to get jumped in, is what we called, I was about to join this gang. So once he found that out, he said, "Nope, you got too much talent, kid. You're a good fighter. You're out of here." So he sent me. Imagine the sacrifice, sending his son away from the family to an uncle's house in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, which is where I'm from. At the age of 14, and I'm back in Mexico, back in zero, back at a place where, yes, I was born in, but yet I didn't know much of. Keep in mind, I left when I was 7. Yeah, I left when I was 7 years old. Yes, I went back to Mexico where I was born, but didn't know much of it. And believe it or not, you're not welcome as good as you people might think. That despite you're Mexican, you go back. No, people see you as a Chicano. They see you as a Pocho, as they call it, and they don't really consider you a full-on Mexican. So it was tough. It was tough.
And while you were there, of course, you continued boxing, and you would end up what came out of that, though, that was, well, several things came out of it that was good. Number one, you got away from what was potentially a bad situation. And also, you ended up fighting for Mexico in the 2004 Olympics. And in those Olympics, you lost in the first round in a very controversial decision to Bidek. Was that a tough pill to swallow, losing in a fight that probably you thought you might have won?
It was, and I want to share a little bit about the story too, Al. So when I'm in Mexico, 14 years old, again, I'm not realized yet of how good I was, as a fighter. I just, I'm still a young kid, still getting in trouble. Did not care a bit about boxing. My dad really forced me into the sport. Got the connects to send me to the boxing committee in Mexico City to actually try out for the Olympics and try out for the team first. You got to win a national to make the team. I get there. They said, hey, this kid's from Mexican, but he comes from the U.S., has a great background. Test him out. They tested me out against the number one guy. Again, I'm there just saying hi. I'm like, okay, can you spar the number one guy? Yes, I sparred the number one guy. I took his place. I beat him up. They tell me, hey, Abner, I'm 15 at the time. We're sending you to a world boxing tournament, cadet world boxing tournament in Kaskamek, Hungary.
Huh.
The president tells me, Abner, which is, who is Ricardo Contreras, who is still there as a president. And he tells me, Abner, if you can win one fight, I'll be more than happy. I swear to God, you could ask him. I tapped on his shoulder. 15. I'm 15 years old now. And I tell him, I'm not only going to win one fight, I'm going to win the whole tournament and bring back best boxer. He looks at me with a smirk. Yeah, sure. I go on, win the world tournament, come back with the, best fighter of the whole world tournament at the age of 15. So ever since then, picked up nationals, internationals, Pan Ams, Central Americans, world tournaments as an amateur. And again, a kid, Abner Mares, did not still realize of his qualities. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm good at it. Cool. It wasn't until I made the Olympics in the Pan Ams, I fought with Guillermo Rigondeaux at the time in Santo Domingo in a fight, really close fight. Interesting first round because I was the aggressor, and boring after the last two rounds because we know Guillermo Rigondeaux style. He ran a lot, which he got a lot of booing for that. I lost the fight, but first and second will qualify for the Olympics. 2004 Athens, Greece, Abner Mares makes it to the Olympics. This young kid from Mexico, from the U.S., that no one gave a penny for. And now I'm at the Olympics facing a guy that I had faced in the prior tournaments. His name was Vedek. I remember his last name.
Vedek, yeah.
So Vedek, correct, from Hungary. Like, oh, I got this. I know this guy. I do tremendous. I box this kid, body shots, everything. It was a close fight, good fight, but I'm getting the best of him, Al. It was so bad, the decision, so bad. They still have it till now. When you're watching TV, watching an Olympic game, they have the flag of the country representing down here and the points next to it. I'm literally hitting the guy, boom, 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 and his flag, his number goes up. What is going on? Obviously, I didn't realize this until I went back and saw the fight. Like, I got robbed bad against Vedek. But hey, there's always something bad, something good comes of it, and I got a lot of eyes on me. Then I despite me now making it to a second round, a lot of promoters were knocking on my door, asking if I wanted to sign with them, and at the end of the day, I ended up signing with Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy at the time, and just my career took off.
Yeah, you of course it really helped your career. And did you ever think, because he turned pro, Bidek, did you ever think, or was it ever in the works for you to fight him as a professional? I'm just curious.
It was never in the works, but I did ask. I remember my promoter at the time. I told him, hey, if we could get our hands on this fighter, please, I beg you, I want him. But it just never happened. He was in Europe still fighting out there, and it just never happened. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I would have loved to fight him.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now as a professional, you did something that I think is one of the most remarkable things that I've seen. You fought a schedule of fighters from May of 2010 to August of 2013. You fought 8 straight champions or former champions, and you ended up 6-1-1 against them. 6 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. And here are the names of most of those people: Joseph Agbeko, Victor Chinian, Johan Perez, Eric Morel, Anselmo Moreno, Johnny Gonzalez. I mean, that's a murderer's. Oh, and Ponce de Leon as well. I mean, that's a murderer's row of all those people were in their primes. They were all fighting great, and you took all of them on. What is your mindset to do that? Like, you have to have a lot of confidence, don't you?
Yes. A lot of confidence, Al, definitely. I always believed in myself. And I want to backtrack it a little bit. When I first fought, my first title attempt was against Johnny Perez. It was on Showtime. I was the co-main event for Israel Vasquez against Rafael Marquez. I want to say it was a second or third fight. I remember we stole the show. It was a close, really good fight against Johnny Perez where I thought I won. I did enough to win that title. And unfortunately, I got a draw against Johnny Perez. And then after that, it turns into a tournament. Remember the Showtime tournament?
That's right, yeah.
The bantamweight tournament. And I'm the youngest, less experienced fighter out of all of them. Joseph Agbeko, Johnny Perez, and Victor Chinian, and Anselmo Moreno at the time. And I was the least experienced. And you remember this, Al. I took the whole tournament. I beat Joseph Agbeko. I beat Victor Chinian. And to answer your question, obviously I had the confidence. I knew I always believed in myself. But I also did not have any other option. Period. I didn't have any other option. Huh? It was fighting these guys and proving myself, or I would not get another opportunity like the one I got against Johnny Perez. So I went in there, balls out, and just, proved to myself and proved to everyone that I was deserving. And after that tournament, I was considered pound for pound list. I was considered one of the best. And unfortunately, after that tournament, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, Al, but that's when I suffered my first defeat. No, I went on. I'm sorry. I went on. I beat on someone where I went on. I beat Ponce de Leon for the bantamweight title, featherweight title. I'm sorry. And then I went on to fight Johnny Gonzalez and suffered my first defeat. But it was quite the ride, quite the fights, and I'm really proud to say that I fought them all sizes and shapes and colors, and never turned down a fight till this date.
Let's talk for a second about that Johnny Gonzalez fight, because I want to make a confession. So I announced that fight, and at the time, I didn't really delve into too much when we were doing it, whether the stoppage was appropriate or not. It just, because you were hurt, it kind of seemed like, okay, they stopped the fight. It was early. It was in round one, correct? And when I look back at that video, though, even 2 months later and the other times when I've looked at it, I actually think that was a quick stoppage and that you should have been given an opportunity to continue. Did you think that?
I think the same thing. At the time, I would tell people, but I felt like if I were to say it, they will see it as an excuse me trying to make. They will see it as Abner Mares not taking defeat as a man. And I said, all right, ref did what he had to do, and he did it. But being, like you said, confessing reality and being honest to everyone and being honest to myself, I honestly felt and feel that I could have continued because I was aware of everything. I looked up. I'm like, man, I'm down again. And I think it was less than 10 seconds until the round ended. So if I would have got up, shaking clean my fist, would have said fight, the round would have been over. So you just never know, you just never know what would have happened after. But what I do know is that I did lose that night, and it was it was my first defeat by knockout, and It was just that.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. It was intriguing because it's one of those things where you look back on it, and I know I had a different view. You, of course, had your view, but as you point out, you didn't really want to, dig into it. But when I look back on it, I'm like, oh my, and I actually felt bad because I feel while I didn't need to criticize the referee and yell at him, I probably should have called more attention to the fact that it's questionable, but I didn't. So well, we all make mistakes, right? Now you are now in a position where you're kind of thinking about your boxing future. Can you share with the fans what you're looking at in terms of whether you return to fight or don't?
Of course. Well, as people might remember, and if not, I'll refresh their memory. I was scheduled to fight Tank Davis last year, February. 2 weeks before the fight, I got injured in a sparring session. I got a detached retina, and which is bad eye injury. And unfortunately, I had to cancel the fight. Gervonta Davis went on to fight himself against someone else and won. And since then, I've been out. It's almost been 2 years out. And when people ask me if I'm retired, I tell them not quite yet, because I feel like I'm still young. I still have the energy. I still have the age and courage and willingness. And not just that, you can have all that, but physically, if you don't feel ready, and if you're not ready, you just can't. I feel like I am, and I'm going to. The whole plan was to come back this year. Unfortunately, we are hit with the COVID, obviously, with this pandemic that, took a lot from all of us in every aspect in any profession. And unfortunately, I was one of them that, couldn't fight, couldn't get a fight, couldn't land a fight. And now I'm stuck until next year, early next year. I am looking forward to coming back, seeing what I have left. I don't have to prove anything now anymore. It's not proving, because I think I have done it. It's more like to see if I have anything left, because I'm looking good in the gym. I tell my coaches, if I look bad, if you sense anything from me, from my body, saying that no, she shouldn't. Like, I'm not gonna name any names as in current fighters that are fighting that shouldn't at this time, but I don't want to be one of those. So I tell them all the time, make sure you tell me. And so I would not know until I'm in the ring for my next fight if I'm ready or not, or if I should still be doing this or not. But the fact of the matter is that my doctor cleared me, my eye doctor. My coach has cleared me, and my heart and desire has cleared me. So I am coming back, and I cannot wait.
So we should see Abner Mares back in the ring next year then. That, for your fans, that will be something. And you're happy with the way you have looked when you've worked in the gym, huh?
Yes, I have. I mean, not yet at where I want to be, but obviously comfortable where I'm going to get. But yes, my body's responding really well.
You have started a new chapter in your life. You have done it before, but now it's taken a more definitive shape as you have become a boxing analyst, working with us at Showtime, and doing an excellent job. This was something that I think you were headed toward, probably because you've sat in and done it. But how did it feel to get the opportunity to do this?
First and foremost, I'm really grateful, towards the company, Showtime, for giving me the opportunity, for even considering me, as a potential, fighter, analyst that could, fulfill, heavy shoes, big shoes, and to the person who used to have them, we used to be in that position. And also, I did see myself attempting to be an analyst, commentator, because, like you mentioned, I have done it in the past. But now I feel more of I see it more of a job, more of a, like, I really have to do my homework. Before, it was like fun. It was more like I don't know. It's like, but you're barely starting, barely getting your feet wet. And now it's like it's starting to look like my profession. But like, people, like, to have people like yourself, people like Mo, people like Steve, Brian, and the whole crew from Showtime makes it so, and I mean so, and I want to add another so easy and so comfortable. Thank you guys. So comfortable that I don't see it as a job. I don't think of it as that. And one thing I want to share is Brian Custer said something really well and really that hit me, that really helped me out a lot, which was our last pay-per-view show that we had with Jermel and Jamal. But you said, Abner, don't try to be a perfectionist. Don't try to be a pro. Don't try to be us. We study for this. You're the fighter. You've been inside the ring. Talk. Say what you see in the ring. Talk as a comfortable as yourself. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And after he said that, a lot of weight left. I had a lot of weight on my shoulders. I was so relieving. Like, you know what? You are so right. And things like that and advices that you give me help out a lot. So I'm so forever grateful and so comfortable with the team and looking forward to getting better.
Yeah, it's no different than anything else you do. It's getting reps and having a chance to figure out as you go, whether it's boxing or being an analyst or anything else we do in life. And the good thing is you have an opportunity to work through things and figure it out. And I think we view it at Showtime as we're all a team. And I think that's kind of what you're referring to.
But it's not easy, Alan. You know it. A lot of people are like, well, yeah, after you practice a sport, you should be able to talk it and and just share what you see because
it's not easy.
No, but it's not that easy. It's not.
No.
I mean, it's just not. And especially when that light hits you, boom, we're on live. Like, oh shit, yeah, man. But it's just getting comfortable and getting used, getting reps, like you mentioned, and again, I'm really happy.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because you have been a thinking fighter in the ring, so that adds to it. Now, we have a show coming up on October 31st, which will be very interesting. As you pointed out, you were all set to fight Tank Davis, and that rug got pulled out from under you just a few weeks before the fight. And you were in the ring twice with Leo Santa Cruz in 2 epic battles. So nobody on the planet is more equipped to analyze the fight than you, because you prepared for Davis and you fought Leo Santa Cruz. Given that, this must be an intriguing fight for you to look at.
It is. It is a really exciting fight on both ends because, like you mentioned, I fought Leo. I know what he's capable of doing. He's a smart fighter, a lot smarter than what people take him for and give it credit for. They think he's just a balling puncher, a guy that just throws a lot in the ring. Yes, he is all that plus a thinker in there. And again, a guy against Tank Davis that yet has to be proven, and I'm going to continue to say that until he fights a decent opponent, and not so much the word decent, but fighters like Leo Santa Cruz, fighters like Gamboa that he fought last, but definitely it's not as easy as people think. It's definitely a fight that I think Leo is in there to prove that he could withstand a punch, but not withstanding it by standing in front and getting hit and like, oh, let me test your punch. No, being smart. I think Leo has a great boxing abilities. He's got a great defense for sure. He blocks. I mean, the advantage this guy has is that he puts his arms here up in his face and he's got his elbow up to his knees already. Like his arms are so long. That length that covers his whole rib cage. And so it's almost impossible to get a clean shot against Leo, despite him always fighting toe-to-toe and catching punches. But I think he's going to be a lot smarter with Tank Davis. And again, on Tank's side, I think that Tank, this whole pandemic, this whole quarantine has definitely benefit Tank Davis a lot, 100%, because you don't see him out anymore. You don't see him with the wrong crowd. You don't see him out partying because everything's closed. So now you see concentrated. You see a guy that's is ready to really prove and to really show the people that he is that person, that fighter that a lot of people have been talking for many years that yet he has not proven because of those distractions that I just mentioned. So it's a really intriguing, really exciting matchup, despite the little bit the weight differences there. But let's remind people out there they're shrinking down a Tank Davis to a 130. So Leo might have an advantage there.
This fight, to some people's mind, is the high volume punching of Leo Santa Cruz versus the power punching of Tank Davis. Fights are never that simple, of course, but that's kind of the broad headline of this, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, there's no other way you could see it now, other than power puncher Tank Davis and just a guy that has many rounds and is so experienced in Leo Santa Cruz, and a volume puncher. All day he could throw 12, 15, 20 rounds if you give him that many rounds. So it's an interesting fight. Again, a fighter that yet has to be tested in the late rounds. That has been, and we almost saw the difficulties he had against Gamboa in the later rounds. So it should be, again, an interesting fight.
Yeah, that's for sure. If you, if somebody came to you 10 years from now and they were going to say what the legacy of Abner Mares was as a fighter, what do you think they would say to you?
Things that I get until this date, which is they don't remember if I lost or won any fights. They don't bring up, oh, you lost against this guy. No, like, thank you for the great fight. Abner, what a great fight. You're a champion. In and out. I always think I'm a guy that likes to leave a legacy, not just inside the ring, but outside, because people forget, the fighter that you are. But what's going to remind them, that good person, that good-hearted, that humble, that good person, period, that I am, that I always will be, because that's what I got taught, my principles, and the combination of both just makes it, makes you to be just an all-time favorite, period. So I think people are going to remember me as that.
Yeah, I think, you have always been a great ambassador for the sport, and you have always given boxing fans their money's worth in the ring. So nobody could ask for anything more than that. And that's for sure. Now you are going to do something that you've never done before, and that is you get to vote in the election because you got your U.S. citizenship. We talked about the fact that you were born in Mexico, and you actually fought for the Mexican team in the Olympics, and so you had to get your U.S. citizenship, and you get to vote. Some of us that have had that right for a long time tend to forget how special that is.
It is. It is a special moment. I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to it.
Right.
This is my first year, and it couldn't even been better at the time that we are today. That is, it is always important to vote, but I feel that today, in this time, in this moment, is even greater and more important to vote. So to me, to have the privilege, the honor to have the privilege to vote for the first time is just great. My wife, I want to say it, and I have to say it because I'm a little ashamed of that. She went ahead and did it already, and without telling me. And she said, "Hey, I can't do everything for you, son. Because you gotta go and register yourself and get ready for it." So she did it. I already registered, and I am ready to make that importance in America.
That's great. Hey, Abner, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me on this show, and I look forward to us working together in the next couple of months with some good fights.
Yes, looking forward to it too. Thank you for the space.
Take care.
God bless you.
So Abner Mares giving, I think, some fascinating answers about his career, and also suggesting that we may or may not have seen the last of Abner in the ring. It sounds like he wants at least one more fight to see what he has left, and we'll see how that goes. And of course, he'll continue to be my partner on the Showtime Boxing.
Great. Well, we've got some more questions to get to.
Questions.
Why don't we move there right now?
Questions, Trip.
Just how much of a statement has Custio Clayton made in the division after his performance on October 24th, which you called?
Yeah, he fought very, very well against Sergey Lipinets. For those that don't know Castillo Clayton, he's one of the best amateur fighters that Canada has produced in the last few decades. And he competed in the Olympic Games, and he's undefeated, was undefeated, and still is as a pro coming into the Sergey Lipinets fight. And he and Lipinets put on a very intriguing fight and a good one. And it had, lots of spots with good action, and they ended up fighting to a draw. And I personally thought actually that Clayton might have won it by a point or two, a couple of points. But it was a close fight, and they ended up with the draw. I think Clayton proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is among the top 7 or 8 welterweights in the world. And he is an excellent ring technician. And the only thing he has to be mindful of, and it caught up to him a little bit in this fight when it was a draw, is to make sure he does enough each round so that judges can't take rounds away from him. But it was an excellent performance by him, and I hope we have a rematch of his fight with Lipinets.
Yeah, and you made a really good comment that Lipinets was doing a great job of getting the body, and you were hoping that the judges would recognize that.
Yeah, and they did. It always bothers me when fighters concentrate their attack to the body, and it's effective, and judges don't give them the credit. A perfect example of a fighter getting credit for that is many, many years ago when Kenny Norton fought Jimmy Young. You couldn't hit Jimmy Young to the head. It was almost impossible. And Kenny Norton made a conscious decision that he was going to go to the body about 80 to 90% of the time. And, of course, it's hard to protect both the body and the head. Kenny Norton did one of the best jobs of body punching I've ever seen, and astonishingly, the judges gave him credit for it, and he won a close decision over Jimmy Young. That was how he won the heavyweight title.
Well, you guys did a great job on that fight. And now we're going back to a promising young fighter. Many, many years ago, Jamie Meja asked, Al, when you were a fighter as an amateur back in the Windy City, what weight class were you at, and what was your record? Because we know the last part, we know it was 0 at the end.
Yeah. Oh, well, not exactly. No. So my fabled boxing career as an amateur, I think we can say, I fought as at 178 pounds, and I was mostly fought in the Park District competitions. And I lost several fights. I want to say I won about 28 fights or 27, but I lost, I'm going to say 3 or 4. And those 3 or 4 were toward the end and were kind of an indication to me that I had kind of reached my plateau as a boxer. At the time, I was a baseball player playing in high school and looking to play in college. And so I kind of had to harness my athletic approach. And I ended up deciding not to box anymore because I'd lost a couple of matches against better amateurs. And I said, you know what, I don't know if I think I've reached my plateau, and I think we're kind of done with this. So I did not make anybody forget Mark Breland as an amateur, It was fun. I enjoyed it a great deal. And even now, I get I'll get emails or tweets or texts from guys that I boxed against back then, who of course know me from TV now. And one of them, he said, just don't ever forget that I beat you when you were an amateur. It's like, thank you for reminding me of that. I really appreciate that.
Do you think there's any video of your old fights out there?
I've looked. I can't find any. And no, we didn't take any films. The only thing that exists of me boxing is some video from when I went back in, this was in the late 80s, I'm going to say. I went back in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My friend Phil Daly, who's since left us, had a tournament of, not a tournament, but a night of amateur boxers that used to box and some celebrity boxing. And I went down there and I boxed against a news anchor, a sports anchor that was on the station down there in Lake Charles, who was a former football player in college at McNeese State, and it was a it was a fun experience. He was like he outweighed me by about 40 pounds, I think, and his wife came up to me just before the fight and said to me, "You're not going to hurt him, are you?" I said, I don't know. I'll try not to. And so I got in the ring, and he had this giant helmet on, boxing sparring helmet. I didn't wear one. I didn't wear any helmet, and I kept bouncing right hands off his head. And was pretty sure after about the fifth one, I said, and I wasn't, the intention was not to kill anybody, but you had to land some punches, and he didn't even. I think that helmet was so big. It was one of the biggest sparring helmets I ever seen. I think I could have been hitting him with a baseball bat, and he would have never felt that right hand. So my answer, at one point, I went back in the first round and I thought about it, what his wife said, and I said, you know what? No worries. Unless I hit him with a couple body shots that hurt him, he's not going to get hurt to the head. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Now, I think that's the only, I got a teensy little bit, we should probably show that on the show. That would be fun, wouldn't we? I'll see if I can find it. I had, it's very brief. It's very short. It's just a clip or two, but I'll see what I can do about locating that because, you might want to make fun of me or something.
Never. Hey, do you think you would have been interested in MMA if it was around when you were growing up?
No, I really don't. I got to be honest, and I'm going to be real honest. I saw boxing boxing to me was a sport, and I'm not saying MMA isn't, but it is. But I wanted to get in and function doing certain, using the fundamentals of the sport, and I wasn't really interested in. I've got to be honest. I wasn't interested in a blood and guts battle. It didn't interest me, and that's what MMA often comes down to. I was a boxer puncher who liked to keep his space. Of course, I was going to get hit. You always get hit when you're in a boxing ring, but I was not. The MMA as a sport, I think, would have been a little too edgy for me. I just didn't. I don't think I would have gravitated to it. So.
Well, speaking of a good transition into talking about Tom Yankello, someone who's very precise and can help boxers and fans understand the precision that it is the sweet science.
Yeah, the World Class Boxing channel, Tom Yankello's channel, which has excellent videos explaining to you different techniques of boxing and strategies. And for a young boxer, it's terrific. And it's terrific for anyone because when you watch those videos, it gives you a real good idea of the breakdown of certain fights. And he often talks about what famous fighters how they would have approached something. So, excuse me, the videos are great. So go to the World Class Boxing channel with our friend Tom Yankello, and you can get some great tips and insights into the sport of boxing. Well, my thanks to Abner Mares for joining us on this show. My thanks to Trip Mitchell, of course, for hosting with me. And we will see you next time here on Al Bernstein Unplugged.